Welcome, dear listeners' friends. Tonight we bring you something new, a horror story. If you enjoy this kind of experience, we'll be sure to bring you more like it. Before we begin, we recommend using headphones or earphones for the best immersive experience. And if you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps us understand your preferences. The comment box is always open for your thoughts and suggestions. We truly appreciate your input because this channel is made for you. Your imagination is our priority. The Whispers of the Old Windmill. The rain fell in long, silent sheets as Elliot made his way down the winding country road, his boots kicking up little sprays of mud with every step. The road stretched like a forgotten ribbon through the wooded hills of Filewatch, a place whispered about in the quiet corners of taverns and old maps. He'd heard of the village only once before, buried deep in a journal passed down by his grandfather. The name had tugged at something deep within him, like a thread waiting to be pulled. Now, with only a heavy bag slung over one shoulder and a letter folded in his coat, Elliot found himself standing at the entrance of the place. Filewatch was barely visible through the mist. Stone cottages slumped like ancient bones, the windows flickering with the last gasps of candlelight. In the distance, like a lonely sentinel against the stormy sky, stood an old windmill, towering, motionless, watching. Elliot stopped. A cold wind drifted down from the hills, and with it came something stranger, a sound, faint, like a creaking whisper. He couldn't be sure whether it came from the woods, the windmill, or simply his mind playing tricks. He shook it off. Just tired, he muttered to himself. Too many nights without proper sleep. He approached the inn at the heart of the village. The Lantern's Rest. Its wooden sign swung gently, creaking like the windmill he'd seen moments ago. Inside, it was warm, dim, and mostly empty. An old man behind the bar looked up with eyes like wet stone. "You'll be the stranger," he said. Not asked, said. "I suppose I am," Elliot replied, placing his bag down. "Looking for a room?" "Rooms we have," the innkeeper muttered. "But don't go wandering near the windmill after dark. Not if you want your dreams to stay yours." Elliot's brow furrowed. "Why?" he asked. The innkeeper just shook his head slowly and handed over a brass key. "Because that place, it don't sleep, and sometimes it don't let others sleep either." The room at the Lantern's Rest was simple. A wooden bed with an old wool blanket, a cracked window that looked out onto the fog-drenched hills, and a low burning lantern that cast soft amber shadows along the walls. Elliot sat on the edge of the bed, the innkeeper's warning still echoing in his mind. That place, it don't sleep, and sometimes it don't let others sleep either. He exhaled slowly. It wasn't just the windmill that bothered him, it was the dream, the same one he'd had again and again, since receiving his grandfather's letter, a dream of tall hills, endless stairs, and whispering voices circling around him, always just out of reach. No matter how far he walked in the dream, the windmill was always there at the top, unmoving and waiting, and now he was here. He pulled the blanket up over his shoulders and listened to the soft patter of rain against the window. Somewhere outside, a wind chime clicked gently in the breeze. Midnight passed. Sometime between the distant chimes and the crackle of the lantern, Elliot drifted into sleep, but it was not restful. The windmill was waiting. In the dream, the windmill was alive. Its great wooden blades turned, not with the wind, but with breath, slow, exhaling rotations that groaned through the mist. He stood at its base now, surrounded by tall grasses that whispered against one another, speaking in strange syllables. The structure above him pulsed with a heavy, ancient rhythm, as if something was breathing inside. He looked up and saw a window near the top, just beneath the roof. A dark figure stood there, unmoving. Elliot opened his mouth to speak, and the windmill creaked in response. A voice, soft and broken, spoke from within the walls. "You've come back again." Elliot woke with a start. The lantern had gone out, the rain had stopped, only silence remained, and a single tap, tap, tap against the glass of the window. He turned slowly. Nothing, but the glass was fogged, and a word had been drawn into the condensation with a fingertip from the outside. Return. Morning in the village of Elmsvale came slow and grey. A thick mist rolled down from the hills, curling around rooftops and chimney stacks like long pale fingers. Elliot stood by the window of his room at the lantern's rest, staring out at the place where the windmill stood in the distance. Only now it wasn't visible, not because it was too far, but because the mist was too dense. Still, he could feel it, watching. He turned from the window and began unpacking the small leather satchel he'd brought. Most of it was filled with notebooks, his grandfather's last letters, and one battered photograph. It was taken years ago, maybe the 1950s, and showed a young man standing at the base of the windmill, smiling uneasily. On the back, written in faded ink, the place where it all began. J. His grandfather James, and Elliot was starting to understand why he had begged him not to come. Among the papers, tucked into the lining of the satchel, Elliot found something he hadn't noticed before. A thin, leather-bound journal with brittle yellow pages. It smelled like dust and salt and old wood. He opened it carefully. The first page simply read, "If you are reading this, it means the wind has returned, and with it, her voice." That evening, Elliot returned to the old windmill. He waited until dusk, when the villagers shut their windows, turned off their porch lights, and refused to speak of anything but the weather. Even the innkeeper said nothing as Elliot walked past him, only giving a slight shake of his head, a silent warning. Up the winding hill, the path grew muddy and uneven. date leaves stuck to his boots. The fog thickened as the sun dropped behind the hills and the wind picked up, bringing with it a strange high-pitched whine, almost like someone humming just out of earshot. Elliot reached the gate. The windmill stood tall and broken. Its blades didn't turn, yet the structure groaned with every gust of air. He opened the gate slowly. It creaked in protest. Inside, the windmill was colder than he expected. Dust hung in the air like mist. The floorboards moaned under his weight as he stepped inside. Lantern raised, he saw stairs, a narrow spiral of rotting wood winding up into the dark. As he began to climb, the journal slipped from his coat pocket and landed open on a step. The pages fluttered wildly, not with the wind, but with a sudden breathless force. He knelt and saw that a single sentence had appeared, scrawled across the center of the page in a dark, wet ink. "She knows you're here." Elliot's breath came in short, heavy gasps as he stood on the steps, the journal still trembling in his hand. The ink on the page continued to bleed, the words growing darker and more distorted, as if they were being written in real time by an unseen hand. "She knows you're here." The air around him thickened, the faint smell of mildew and earth becoming unbearable. His chest tightened, though the very space around him was pressing inward. He didn't want to move forward, but the pull was undeniable. Something, no, someone was waiting for him. With a heavy sigh, Elliot tucked the journal back into his coat, gripping the lantern tightly in his other hand. He had to reach the top. The stairs creaked under his weight, protesting with each step as he climbed higher and higher, the air growing colder and colder. The wind outside howled, the sound now seeming like a chorus of faint whispers that danced just on the edge of his hearing. Suddenly, the noise stopped, a complete and utter silence. Elliot's heartbeat drummed in his ears as he reached the final step, leading into the upper chamber of the windmill. He entered, and the first thing he noticed was the oppressive stillness. The walls were lined with old rotting wooden shelves, filled with strange artifacts. Some of them Elliot didn't recognize, small trinkets, broken pottery, and old faded photographs of people he couldn't place. But then, in the far corner, something caught his eye, a dark shape. Small at first, like the silhouette of a figure draped in shadow. A faint whisper, no louder than a breath, brushed against his ear. "Come closer, Elliot." The words sent a cold shiver down his spine, but he couldn't stop himself. He found his legs moving, carrying him towards the corner of the room where the shadow loomed, tall and thin, as though it were waiting for him. It was a figure, a woman draped in a long flowing gown, her face hidden beneath a heavy veil. Her hands were clasped tightly before her, as though she were waiting for something or someone to arrive. "It's you, isn't it?" Elliot whispered, his voice shaking. The figure didn't respond, but a soft laugh, as faint as a breeze, filled the room. The shadows around her flickered and danced. The lantern flickered with them, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. "I know why you're here," she said softly, her voice like the wind itself, distant but so close that it made his skin crawl. "I can feel your heart, your fear." Elliot swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. The woman did not answer, but instead she lifted her veil. The sight that greeted him was not human. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were hollow, dark pits that seemed to peer into the very depths of his soul. Her lips were cracked, her mouth twisted into a haunting smile. There was something otherworldly about her, something ancient and cruel. "I've been waiting, Elliot." She stepped closer, her movements slow, deliberate, waiting for you to remember. Suddenly, the room seemed to grow even darker, the shadows stretching out towards him, wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. Elliot stepped back, panic rising in his chest. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to hear me." The woman's voice was now a soft, luring whisper. "I want you to know the truth about this place, about the windmill, about your bloodline." Elliot's mind raced. His bloodline? He didn't understand. His grandfather had always warned him about the windmill, but nothing had ever felt real. This wasn't real. But the woman stepped forward again, her presence growing stronger, almost overwhelming. Her words seemed to echo in his mind, rattling his thoughts. "You don't know why you're here, do you?" She continued, her eyes never leaving his. "You think this is a simple story, a ghost story told around a fire, but no, it's much more than that." With a final sudden movement, she reached out and touched his hand. The moment her fingers brushed his skin, a rush of memories flooded into his mind. Memories of places he had never been, faces he had never seen, images of a woman in the same gown, standing in the very spot he stood. A long time ago. The woman's face twisted again, as though the memories were too much for her to bear. "They never told you, did they?" she whispered. "The windmill was never just a place. It's a curse. And your blood, it binds you to it." Elliot tried to pull away, but it was too late. The shadows now surrounded him, closing in with a suffocating force. The woman's smile faded, her voice a sharp, cold whisper. "Now, you will never leave." The chill in the room gripped Elliot's bones like icy fingers. He stumbled back from the veiled woman, his breath catching in his throat. But no matter how many steps he took, the room never grew farther, never let him go. The windmill wasn't just haunted, it was alive. The lantern in his hand flickered again, and then died completely, plunging the room into total darkness. Only her voice remained, disembodied and everywhere at once. "You come from the line of watchers, protectors, betrayers." Elliot dropped the lantern and it shattered on the wooden floor, though the sound felt muffled, like it happened underwater. "You left me here," she whispered. "Your family locked me inside this place, and it fed on me, my voice, my pain, my soul. Who are you?" Elliot demanded, his voice shaky. Once I had a name. Now I am the wind's morning. Suddenly, Elliot was pulled into a vision, not a memory, not quite a dream, but something deeper. The walls of the windmill faded, replaced by flickering candlelight and the sound of chants. A woman stood in a circle of men, her hands bound, eyes wild. One of the men, a tall, stern figure with Elliot's eyes, raised a wooden symbol. "She must be sealed," he said, "for the safety of the village." Elliot gasped as he recognized the man, his great-grandfather. The woman screamed, not out of pain, but rage. "You think you can contain the wind? You think you can silence me?" And with that, the windmill's blades began to spin violently. The vision vanished and Elliot was back, sweating, breathing hard, heart pounding in the dark chamber. "You were sacrificed," he whispered. "No," the voice hissed. "I was buried alive in time, in memory, but never gone." A heavy groaning sound echoed through the walls, the grinding of old wood and rusted gears. The windmill was turning again, on its own. The woman's figure reformed in front of him, more real now, more solid, her eyes no longer hollow, but burning with something unnatural. Behind her, the shadows on the walls twisted into impossible shapes, writhing figures, clawed hands, gaping mouths. "You are bound by the blood of the betrayer," she said, "and so the curse must complete its cycle." Elliot took a step back, but the floor beneath him cracked, not just a creak, but a snap, like a heartbeat giving out. He stumbled, landing hard, and suddenly the floor gave way beneath him. He fell, and fell, and fell, not down a floor, not downstairs, but into something deeper, a pocket of time, of memory, of the curse. Elliot hit the ground with a thud, the air forced from his lungs. He lay motionless for a moment, trying to gather his breath, his mind spinning. Everything around him was black, not the kind of dark you adjust to, but a depthless void that felt alive, watching. Then, faintly, a flicker. A blue flame danced on a distant wall, revealing he was in a stone chamber, circular and ancient, hidden beneath the foundation of the windmill. The walls were carved with strange symbols, spirals, eyes, wind-blown shapes that seemed to shift the longer he looked at them. The air smelled of mold and ash, and the sound of creaking wood above still echoed faintly. The blades of the windmill slowly turning above. But it was the thing in the center of the room that stole his attention. A well, old, bricked, and sealed with a rusted iron lid, bolted shut with thick chains. The air around it pulsed with cold, not temperature, but presence. It throbbed like a living thing, a heart trapped under stone. He moved closer, the lantern now mysteriously reignited, with blue flame in his hand. The whispers started again, not in the air this time, but directly in his head. "Elliot, you know what this is?" They buried her voice here, but she never stopped speaking. Elliot knelt beside the well, brushing away dust and dried leaves from its surface. The symbols here were different, angular, sharp, violent. They pulsed faintly in the flame's light. He heard his own voice speak, but didn't feel himself say it. This is where the deal was made. A vision flooded in again, But this time, not his ancestors. This was hers. The woman, younger, beautiful, standing on a field near the windmill, her hair wild, her arms open, catching the wind. She was no witch, she was something older, a seer, a voice for the elements. The villagers had come to her for blessings, for harvest, for control, and when the crops failed, they turned. They blamed her, not the weather, not the land, her. She was dragged here, chained, cursed, and something in the wind answered. A thing, older than curses, a being made of breath and memory, shadow and time. It promised her vengeance, it promised her a voice that could never be silenced, and it demanded a place to dwell. Elliot staggered back, tears in his eyes. She didn't haunt the windmill, she became it. The woman's voice echoed around him again, clearer now. I gave the wind its voice, I gave it memory, I became its breath. Suddenly, the well groaned, the lid shifted, the chains tightened. Elliot backed away. Something underneath stirred, not the woman, something else. The thing she had bargained with. The windmill above began to spin wildly, too fast. Boards cracked, the wall shook, dust rained from above. Then a final whisper, so close to his ear he could feel the lips. The pact must continue, and you must feed it now. The lid burst open, and from within it rose, a figure, no, a formless shape, made of wind and ash and memory, a storm-given flesh. It had no eyes, but Elliot felt it watching. It had no mouth, but he heard it scream. He turned and ran through a tunnel that opened behind him, blind, panicked, half-possessed. The wind chased him, howling down the stone corridor like a beast on fire. Elliot bolted down the narrow stone corridor, his footsteps echoing like thunder behind him. The lantern in his hand flickered wildly, throwing shadows against the damp walls, stretching them into monstrous shapes. Behind him, the thing that rose from the well screamed, a noise like tearing sky and breaking glass, furious and ancient. The tunnel twisted and turned, the walls narrowing as if trying to squeeze him back into the darkness. The wind roared at his back, hot and furious, whispering his name now. Elliot, come back. You heard the pact. You are one of us. He didn't dare look back. He could feel it, the presence, the pressure in the air, like the storm itself was being pushed through a straw, funneled into a shape that wasn't meant to be seen. Up ahead, a faint glow. Moonlight. A broken wooden door hung loose on its hinges. Elliot didn't hesitate. He crashed through it into the cold, wild night air. He was outside, but not free. The windmill still loomed behind him, its blades spinning unnaturally fast, the structure groaning as if in pain or ecstasy, and the wind it followed. It spilled from the mill like smoke, curling through the grass, around the trees, chasing him. Elliot ran. He didn't know where, but the woods welcomed him, the trees swallowing his form, branches grabbing at his coat, roots pulling at his boots. He stumbled, fell, got up again. The wind howled through the forest like a bloodhound with no eyes, just memory. The whispers grew louder and twisted. Now they weren't just the woman's voice, they were others. I died in the storm. She promised me life. She lied. Elliot's mind cracked. This wasn't just a haunting, this was possession by legacy, the burden of unfinished vengeance passed down through blood and story. He collapsed at the base of a massive tree, gasping. His body ached, his ears rang, and then silence, complete, total, the kind of silence that hurts. Then a voice, clear, software, not in his head this time, right behind him. "You're not ready to leave yet, are you?" He turned. Standing there was a boy, no older than 10, pale, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes from another time. His voice was calm, sad. "We all tried. Running doesn't work. The wind knows. The only way out is in." Elliot backed away. "What are you talking about?" The boy tilted his head. "She let us speak just once. I used mine to warn you. You're lucky. She likes you." Elliot stood still, heart thudding. "Who is she?" The boy stepped forward, his eyes dimming like dying embers. "She was the storm, but now she's what's inside it." Suddenly the boy turned to ash, blown apart by a sudden gust of wind that blasted through the clearing like a hurricane. The trees bent backward, the ground shook. Elliot stood alone again, but he wasn't himself anymore. He could hear the wind inside, his own thoughts. Now, the woman, the boy, the screams, the whispers. "If you won't complete the pact, you will carry it." His vision blurred. The forest tilted. He collapsed, unconscious, into a bed of leaves, and far above, back at the old windmill, the blades slowed. The building creaked once, and then stood still, waiting. The forest whispered now, quieter than before. Elliot stirred. His body ached, his skin cold with dew. He sat up slowly beneath the ancient trees, breath steaming in the air. Morning hadn't come. It was still night, but something had changed. The oppressive energy that once surrounded him now pulsed like a heartbeat through the ground. The boy's words echoed inside him. "The only way out is in." He rose, driven by instinct more than reason, and looked behind him. The windmill still stood atop the hill, silhouetted by the moon, unmoving, waiting. Elliot began walking, not away, but toward it. The grass crunched underfoot. Every step felt heavier, as if reality grew thicker the closer he got. Time distorted. Owls flew without sound. The sky hung motionless. The stars pulsed like breathing eyes. He reached the hill's base and paused. A woman stood by the door of the windmill. She wore a long black cloak that shifted like smoke in the breeze. Her hair flowed as if underwater, her face hidden beneath a thin, transparent veil. But her presence, it was massive, terrifying, ancient. "You came back," she said, though her lips never moved. Elliot's voice cracked. "Who are you?" She stepped aside, gesturing toward the open door behind her. "You already know. Step inside. You'll remember." Against all logic, Elliot walked past her, through the threshold, and into the windmill once more. Inside, it had changed. No more creaking wood, no storm-warped walls. It was alive. The inside pulsed like the interior of a living being. Floors of soft earth, walls that breathed, air thick with incense and rot. Candles floated in the air. Shadows danced to an unseen rhythm. The woman appeared beside him. "Long ago, I kept the windmill to protect the village," she said. "But they broke their promise. They killed my son, so I became the wind, and now it feeds on blood and memory. She turned to Elliot, her veil lifting. Her face was half burned, lips cracked open in a permanent grimace, one eye pure flame, the other completely black. You bear the blood of the one who betrayed me. You are the final debt. Elliot staggered backward. I didn't ask for this. She raised her hand. Wind shrieked through the tower. Candles blew out, leaving only her burning eye to light the dark. None of them did. That's the lesson. Then silence. The fire took instantly, roaring to life with unnatural hunger. The ancient wood hissed and cracked. The attic glowed in a fiery orange, casting dancing shadows of lost souls on the walls. Thank you, someone whispered beside him. He turned. The woman, her face no longer burned, but peaceful. She smiled. You gave us what we couldn't give ourselves. An end. Then she vanished. One by one, the ghosts dissolved in the smoke, not screaming, not crying, but in peace. The wind outside stilled, as if holding its breath. The spinning blade shuddered and stopped. Elliot was found days later by a pair of hikers. The windmill was gone, reduced to ash and stone. He didn't speak for a week, but when he did, he told the tale, just once, and never again. No one believed him, but when the wind rustles through that part of the hills, the locals still pause. Some say they hear voices, others just the sound of peace. But for those who truly listen, the whispers of the old windmill still echo, just a little more quietly. And so ends the tale of the whispers that haunted the old windmill. If you enjoyed this eerie journey and want more chilling bedtime tales, don't forget to hit the like up button. It helps us know what you'd love to hear next. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts or spooky story ideas. This channel is for you. Your nightmares are our inspiration. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another Moonlit tale. Sleep well, brave dreamer, if you can. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and beware the wind. The Whispers of the Old Windmill. A horror sleep story by Twilight, Moonlit.